Bianca Cotton is an author, a podcast host, and an entrepreneurial leader with extensive nonprofit experience. She's passionate about intentionally creating positive social change in underrepresented populations and communities of need, while at the same time demonstrating sensitivity and compassion for all stakeholders. In this podcast, she shares with us her growth journey. She talks about the experiences that shaped her personality, her fears about writing, and how she overcame them, and as well as her career transition journey, how she navigated through different jobs and what supported her. I feel it is a profound conversation full of wisdom, authenticity, and vulnerability. I hope you enjoy it as much as I did. Welcome, Bianca.
Thank
How
you for having me.
how are you?
I am well on this lovely day. How are you?
Good, good. I'm loving the sunshine. It's been so gray here in Chicago. It's flickering. I tried to put the blinds down, but it's seeping in. But I'm loving it. So thank you for being a guest on this podcast. I am so grateful for your time and just looking forward to our conversation. I've been following you for some time now, and I really wanted to dig deeper into your story and what's behind the confident smile.
I'm here for it.
Tell us a little bit about what you do, what's your background, and
Mm,
what you're currently doing. Yeah,
yes,
get to know you a little bit.
definitely. I'll start with my background. Born and raised South Side of Chicago from a two-parent household. I'm the youngest of three. I have a lot of nieces and nephews. I'm a mom of three, a wife. And my childhood really informed what I do today. And so my mom was an early childhood educator, father, entrepreneur, and very involved in my life and my educational journey and what I enjoy doing. And I got my first stint of volunteerism by going to the early childhood centers that my mom worked at after school and was put to work. I was young and so were the children, and they would give me different jobs. Help this one tie their shoe. Help this one learn how to write their letters. And I was just like, I'm not too much older than them, but the servant heart really was formed in my childhood. So that's how I got started and really informs the work that I do today. On top of mentors that I've had over the years, starting in elementary school, who introduced me to community organizing, introduced me to what it means to live in community and be brothers and sisters, not blood related, but same values, same mind, same heart, and really fighting for equity in systems that often would not treat Black and Brown people the same as our counterparts.
All that growing up, your exposure to that kind of work. So, how is it getting represented in your work today?
Mm. Yes. So today I help emerging leaders who are on the trajectory of figuring out, what do I do with my life between the ages of 18 to 30? I'm passionate about community or passionate about youth development or passionate about water justice. And I help to co-lead an organization that focus on social justice and helping emerging leaders from diverse backgrounds to figure out their path and their journey through a 10-month apprenticeship program that I'm also an alumni of and can speak to from that perspective of serving 2 years in communities right out of college and how it transformed my life and my trajectory. So now being in a seat where I get to usher in the next generation of leaders that will one day be taking care of us, taking care of our country, taking care of our children is powerful, and it's definitely something I sit in with gratitude often, to be able to pour into our next leaders and train them and coach them, and also support our staff as they coach our emerging leaders as well.
So that's your day job,
Yes.
right? Yes. But then you have a little.
Yes. So Behind the Confident Smile is a movement where I inspire women and girls to walk in love, live in hope, and be healed from past hurts. And that has manifested itself over the past 6.5 years through books, workshops, seminars, keynote speaking, podcasting, where my podcast is now on Can TV. And I just got my 8th book in the mail yesterday. So I'm now an 8-time author. And it's just, again, powerful, impactful to be able to support women and girls in the realm of healing. How do we heal well? What does living in joy look like? Why do we keep our feelings bottled up and suppressed? How is that really helping us? That is Behind the Confidence Smile.
So, what got you interested in this concept? Bottled up feelings, coming up to realizing your own potential and living up to it, and living fullest. Is there a story behind it?
Definitely. It's multiple stories. But one, I would say how this came about, the real story of how Behind the Confidence Smile was born. It first started as a blog. And I was on maternity leave with my daughter who just turned 7. And to my surprise, I wasn't ready to return to work. And I prayed a prayer like, Lord, show me how I can quit my job and still bring in the same amount of income that I'm bringing in into the household. And the response I got to that prayer was start writing to encourage women, actually specifically blogging. And I was like, how is that supposed to help me? So I didn't do it. But a month or two later, there was some shifts that happened around me that took me back to that prayer, and I started blogging to encourage women. Little did I know, things that I had suppressed over the years that I thought I had healed from start to come up in my writing. And also really desiring to see people truly walk in their purpose and what they were put on this earth for, but seeing how fear and holding on to past hurts impacted us. And the wealthiest place in the world is the grave. So many people die without fulfilling their purpose or dying with dreams still in them. And I made it my mission to say, I am not going to die with dreams still left in me. My goal is to die empty. And one of the stories behind the Confident Smile.
Oh, I just love that. I think it's a quote. I'm going to use it. That the wealthiest place on earth is your grave. It is so true. I so relate with it. It's not until I was 45 that I really started digging into all my desires that I had suppressed within me, whether it was going back, whether it was going to a graduate school, starting a podcast, or my recent venture is such a long awaited desire is to draw and paint, but I never did anything about it. So I don't, this is not about me.
No,
Let's,
but but that's a testament to saying, especially when you experience losing loved ones. So
yes.
when I was 18, one of my closest and age cousins and closest cousins at the time passed away. She was 17. We were 6 months apart. So significant deaths. And then a year prior, I had another cousin that had passed. And we were all around the same age. So I'm a freshman in college, and I see my family members who are under the age of 18 passing away. That put in me like, No day is promised.
Hmm.
What am I going to do each day to make sure that I'm living a full life?
Oh, amazing. These are such powerful words, Bianca. It is so important to get connected to that fire within us, that what am I doing each day? Because every little thing counts.
It
What I
does.
do. Yes, it builds up. It doesn't happen overnight. Everything that I do today will build up to something tomorrow. The ocean was formed drop by drop.
I get that. I build brick by brick. What is the brick that I'm focusing on today to get me to the bricks that I see 5 years from now?
Yes. So powerful. I know that you mentioned you talked a lot about values, your purpose. So, what is your purpose? And how did you come to realize that this is your purpose?
Oh, I believe my purpose is to deal hope wherever I go. And I've been calling myself a hope dealer for some time now. And how did I come about that? Multiple ways. Reading a lot. I read a lot and seeing myself and other people's stories. I love autobiographies. Being in community with people, hearing their feedback about how they see me and how they engage with me. Sometimes we need mirrors because we're living our life. And I gained so much language from mentors around me, friends. They were like, I see you do well in this. And I was like, oh, like it just comes so natural. So them giving language to what comes so natural to me, I start awakening to what does Bianca really like doing? I really enjoy encouraging. I really enjoy seeing someone be joyful, especially if they're in a down season or having a down moment, letting them know that this will pass, right? I don't know when, but this can be overcome. So, really injecting hope into people's hearts.
It's so nice to hear and so powerful and reassuring to know that there are people out there who are doing this kind of work and making a difference in the world. There is just so much sadness around it. We need this to have people who show us the other side, who encourage us to cross that bridge and be supportive along the way. Just be there, be that person, the listening ear. As you said, community. And we
Yeah.
need that every day because there's just so much sadness out there. And everybody's going through stuff. Nobody's living a happy,
Right.
you
It's
know.
like life, what's the new term? Life be life, and it's real. It's
Yes,
real. But
yes.
it's how are we living day to day? How are we managing it? Are we choosing to isolate? I used to be a person that would isolate and not really want to share what was truly on my heart, like the heaviness that you can often feel. But once I start releasing and opening up to those around me that I trusted, I start to feel better. Almost like a flower that blooms in the sunlight. That's how it feels for me in community. We can help each other carry our burdens, and a lot of the times solutions are within that, even if it's just I need to get it out. Like,
Yes.
or can you walk with me? Like literally walk with me. I have friends that would take walks with me and we would just talk, and how therapeutic that has been a saving grace for us on the many of days, walking and talking. So we're getting exercise and focusing on our mental and emotional health at the same time, and now can go back into situations and circumstances that may not change right away, but we are prepared.
Walking is considered one of the most important part of recovery. They say, especially mental health.
Mm.
I don't know how it's connected. I don't know the science behind it. My therapist had told me the three M's, and I live by it: movement, music, and meditation. So
Mm.
she said that it's one of the best things that you can do, self care. So, movement can be anything. It could be a walk, whatever you enjoy. It could be exercise. She said that no matter what, stretch and walk. And music, of course, it relieves, it peps us
I
up.
love music.
Yeah, anything that you enjoy. And meditation can be anything. It could be your
Mhm.
prayer time, it could be your quiet time, it could be the traditional meditation, deep breathing. Of course, there's now that big movement, the forest therapy.
Yeah, I just learned of that. I'm so intrigued.
Yes. I'm an introvert, and so rather than speaking it out, I like to go within and need that quiet space. So for me, nature, I know it plays a huge role. Just there's a
Mhm.
beautiful forest preserve close to where I live, and I'm like parked there. When I come back, I feel so rejuvenated and at peace. Just being in nature and walking does something. It's important to recognize what works for us.
Definitely. And in what season of life?
Right.
I'm a big journaler. And so
Mhm.
before talking about things, I would need to sit and write about it. And that will help me get my process together. Is this something I actually want to talk about, or I just want to leave it in my journal?
You enjoy writing. So it's
Mhm.
coming out in that way, whether it's writing your books, journaling, blogging, then, of course, talking about it through your podcast. It sounds like writing is your core way of expressing.
Oh, definitely. I don't think it's going anywhere.
Yeah. Good. It's good to recognize that. And was that a journey? I know that you mentioned about the blog and started writing, but then how did it transition into a book, and
Mm.
what was that journey?
Let's go back. Let's go
Okay.
back even before blogging. In 2010, I started journaling regularly. I had journals, but I started writing regularly in 2010. My life at the point, I was a senior going into my last semester of undergrad. So I was a senior and I needed to release what I had been holding on to. And so I picked up a journal and I started writing, and my writing started to flow out poetically. I had poems and I was just like, wow, I'm amazed at how this is coming out. But in that moment, it just felt good to release. And I was sharing some of my poetry with my mom a couple of months later. One of my friends at the time was like, oh, you should turn this into a book. And I was like, wait, this is just like my form of therapy right now, because I tried going to the counseling team on campus, wasn't really feeling them. So right now, what I got is my journal and my ink pen. But that planted a seed in me. It planted a thought of, but what if? But I was fearful of publishing pieces that were so personal to me, and fear how would people look at me if they heard my thoughts, like my unfiltered thoughts and emotions. So because that seed was planted, a few months later, I decided to pull some pieces of my journal out and format it in book format on my computer. And I looked at it and I came up with a book title like, oh, A Journey Through a Beautiful Mind. I think that would be great. And then I reached out to a friend of mine who I knew was a graphic designer. I was like, hey, can you design me a book cover? I don't know what to do. And he designed the book cover. So I had this book cover. I got the book format on my computer. Now I'm like, okay, how do I actually make it a book? Because at the time I didn't know how people made the book. And I'm doing research, started talking to different independent publishers, and they started giving me their price tags. And I was like, ooh, that's way beyond my budget. And so fear started to rise up in me again. Maybe it's not meant for this book to be out here because I can't afford it. So it sat on my computer for a little over 2 years. And in 2017, I met someone who we were at a party together with all these women celebrating life. And we were talking about our dreams. And I said, I really want to publish my first book, but I don't know how. And I feel like I'm ready now, like I'm healed from the things that I wrote about. So I'm okay with releasing it to the world. And she helps me, walks me step by step on how to self publish because she had taught herself how. And that is how my first book, A Journey Through a Beautiful Mind, was born and self published December of 2017.
Congratulations. That's a journey. It's interesting to me, Bianca. I'm so glad. And of course, there have been books after that, right?
Yes.
Ye- So that was the first one.
Yes.
I really want to go back and talk about those fears that you had. You said that what will people think about me, the unfiltered thoughts of you, their opinion. So, how did you get past that fear? Was it a
Mhm.
process? What changed?
I can't tell you that the fear absolutely went away. But what shifted is 2017 felt like a year of birth for me. I gave birth to my first child in January. I gave birth to Behind the Confidence Smiles, a blog in June of that year. I felt transformed. Something happens when a mother is born. When you realize, okay, now I'm in charge of other humans who are going to be asking me questions when they get a little bit older and have some understanding. What do I want to say to her about facing fear if I'm still living in it? So it was a push for me to go to the next level and face things head on more like I had done before, but more aggressively and more assertively because now I have a little girl and little girls look at their mothers like, I want to be just like her. The other day she was like, I like your outfit. I want that. I want your hair. We are their first teachers. Parents are your first teachers. So I was thinking about that. What do I want to teach? In order for me to teach it, I have to do it. So I can talk about it. So I can walk her through the steps. So was the fear no longer present? No, it was still there. How I overcame it is just by saying, this is what I'm going to do. This is my reason why. And I just need to press the button. And so now, since pressing the button and self publishing one, others have come. Now, was that the plan? No, it just kept coming out. The writings just kept coming and still are to this day. But that was my initial push. What do I want to tell my children?
Oh, that's lovely. We all, I think, want to be good role models, the best role models to our children. And that can be a huge motivator. But I think there are parts to it. One is, of course, being a parent and being a role model. Another is getting connected to your why
Mhm.
I'm doing this. If you are connected to that,
Oh,
it can
yes,
really push you to doing things that you would never consider doing. This public speaking, being on a platform, is not my comfort zone. I
Mhm.
wouldn't want to be here or sharing my stuff because, again, as I said, I'm an introvert. But when I got connected to that, why
Mhm.
I'm doing this and what I want to create out of it, that change shifted. It was, again, as you said, the fear didn't go away. Fear is still there, but those baby steps, it was easier to overcome or, let's say, override it.
Definitely. Yeah. Having understanding why you're doing the thing. Like my why at that time was, okay, I wrote it. I just need to release it. At one of my birthdays, I shared with my family and friends to hold me accountable. I said, I have this book. I don't know how I'm going to make it a book yet, but hold me accountable to seeing it through. So now I'm accountable to a group of 20 plus people who is sitting around me after I share poetry with them. Now they're checking in on me too. So that also was a big push for me. But I just needed to get it done. I just needed to do it. And since then, that fear of what will people think about what I'm writing, that's not my challenge because I've overcome that.
What others will think about us, we give it so much priority and start planning and living our lives according to what other people expect out of us. There's a
Mhm.
book by the name of What You Think of Me Is None of My Business.
That's a good title. Mm.
Yes, what you think of me is none of my business. And I keep reminding myself of that it's so important that I need to be true to myself more
Mm.
than living a life that people pleasers and
Oh, definitely.
not worth it. It's a very common fear that people have, that what people will think about it and
And it's
about.
and it impacts confidence. With publishing the first book, it built my confidence when people start buying it and reading it and saying, telling me directly how much it was helping them to overcome fears, or have conversations with people that they didn't initially want to have conversations with, to tell them things that they had been suppressing or secrets that they had been keeping, but they
Mm,
really wanted to share now because of reading my writing. And that really blessed me. And so that started to build my confidence, that I'm glad I didn't sit in fear any a day longer, because that helped to unlock something in someone else.
yes, that's huge. It's so great. Three learnings I'm hearing from this segment of our conversation. One is our legacy. What do we want our kids to know about us? How do they see us being role models? What kind of role models do we want to be to our children? Second is being connected to your why. Third is being accountable to someone, to your friends, a group, a support partner.
Or
And
even yourself, right? Last year, one of my intentions that I lived by was, Bianca, we show up for everybody. How are you showing up for you? Sometimes we need that reminder. How are you showing up for you? So, me being accountable to myself for how I'm showing up for me before inviting someone else to hold me accountable. What does Bianca need to do for Bianca?
oh, that is so powerful and so important. I think we all need to work on that. Show up for yourself and what do I need? It's so important. I can only serve others when my cup is full. It has to overflow. Only then can somebody else benefit. If I'm empty, then I'm not serving others well. You need to be at that place of peace and contentment with myself. And only then can I reflect in my presence with others and respond in an appropriate way. Lovely. I just love it. So through your books now, how do you serve your
Mhm.
readers? What are the intentions of writing those books?
Mhm. My intentions of writing is, one, for those who are reading to know that they are valued, their voice matters, and it matters that you first take care of yourself. And what I mean by first take care of yourself is, what is going on in your heart? Are you holding on to anything that's impacting you showing up in your fullness? How are you owning your greatness? Are you focused on releasing your fears and overcoming those things? And what does it look like for you to live a life in joy? The intent is to really give people a space, especially women and girls, to pause and say, I'm just not reading, but I'm doing heart work. Because incorporated in the majority of my books are journal prompts, space to write. So it's not just you reading, but it's time to get to work. Let's put these principles into practice. See what works for you. See what doesn't work for you. That's the premise of my writing. It's to come alongside me.
Oh,
Let's walk together. Let's reflect together.
it is so important. I think what you're talking about is like doing that self reflective work. What's going on within us and to get connected. I did a podcast with, she's a mental health therapist specializing in a therapy called internal family systems. And
Mm.
it was a fantastic conversation. How important it is to get connected to what's going on inside us and how it can impact and show up in different ways in our life and maybe years down the line. So if we don't work and reflect and heal from something that has impacted our life in our childhood or in our adolescence, experiences that have created fears, thoughts, and paradigms that are blocking us from growing today. And if we don't heal from that, then we are stuck. Then we are not living out our potential. It's so important to do that self reflective work and figure out where we are and what we need. We can figure out solution in an instant. It's figuring out what is happening there. Why am
Right.
I feeling this? We are, I think, designed to know what is our next step. Figure out what works for you. And
Definitely. And try different mediums, right? I used to scream when I was in college, like literally scream. And that's how I was able to release frustration. I would walk and I would just scream and release it. And one of my friends would walk with me sometimes and she would just look at me. I was like, it feels so good. So even just like letting out a yell can be helpful. It does something to you, like just releasing. Because sometimes we can get choked up. Just let it out. Go somewhere and just yell.
I used to do that. Imagine I didn't do yelling. This is the first time heard it. But I mentioned that the forest preserve that I used to go to, so there were hardly any people out there. So there were times when I would be the only one. So I would have my headphones on, my music playing, and there were times that I would just sing along
Yeah.
because there was just no one around. And COVID, that place was packed with people because nobody could go to the gyms. So everybody was coming for a run
Mm.
or a walk. And I missed it.
Yeah, I used to do African dance and drumming. That's another way to release, like dancing,
And
period, is
yeah,
very therapeutic.
yeah. Oh,
Mhm.
yeah. We have that laugh
It's
therapy or
laugh therapy. So the way I do laugh therapy is I watch TikTok videos and
ah,
I find funny TikTok videos and I just laugh. Like it's helpful. So any way that you can find a way to connect with yourself and ground yourself and put a spark of joy in your day, it
yeah,
really goes a long way.
nice. Moving on, like segmenting to your day job. I know that you've been through few transitions yourself. So, can you talk a little bit about that and how you navigated that journey?
Yes, there are three, I would call them cornerstones, three cornerstones that I live by in terms of my career. And it's focused around youth development, education, and community development. That's at the heart and the center of why I do what I do in my career. And so when I'm looking at opportunities where I can express that love and that passion for those three cornerstones, those opportunities and align with the mission of the organization and the work, that's how I flow. I remember you asked me about a time where I was challenged in a transition or where I thought, is this something I want to take on or do? And I was reflecting on this just before coming on, and I thought about a role that I thought was so big. And it was to build an AmeriCorps program and to lead it for an organization that had not had an AmeriCorps program before. And this would be the first time. So, okay, this is the first time they're receiving this grant. I would be the first person in this seat. I have this grant proposal and now I got to create this program. And I have 2 months to get it off the ground. At that time, I was just like, are you sure y'all want me to do this? I don't know if I have what it takes to do it. But that wasn't true. What was true was this opportunity gave me space to open up all of the other opportunities that I've had and build upon for this new one. Yes, there were things that I had no clue about, but that caused me to ask for help, to advocate, to not live in isolation, to learn systems of hiring and training and onboarding people quickly. And I learned so much in that role. I learned how to create a cohesive cohort. I learned what to look for when you're hiring an AmeriCorps member. I learned how to write job descriptions. It's so many skills that I was able to sharpen, enhance, and cultivate. But it took me releasing fear and sometimes walking with the fear. Sometimes I was like, I don't know about today, but I wouldn't take that opportunity back because someone saw something in me to say, Bianca, you can do this. You're the best person for this job. And something about when others believe in you and call something out in you, that belief activates in you. Okay, I'm not alone. I got support. I will be fine.
It's so important to have those people in your life. It's reassuring. We all need validation, those words of encouragement to
Hmm.
to get us through that time. Tell me, when you were in between jobs or when you were transitioning from one to another, what kind of support did you have around you?
Yeah, first I would say get curious about what you want to learn next. For me, each role that I stepped into with a purpose is something I wanted to learn, a reason of why I wanted to grow, and also what I wanted to give. So I always focus on what do I want to gain, what do I want to give, making this a reciprocal relationship. So getting curious about what do I want to learn, what do I want to gain, what do I want to give, and then looking at who is in my network that can help me get to where I'm trying to go. So once you're clear about your why and where you want to go, what type of work you want to do, that can help you reach out to people and say, hey, I'm seeking roles where I can be in the director level in a youth serving agency because I'm passionate about young people. I previously done work in fundraising for youth serving organizations and seeking to expand my reach. So it could help you be more clear in your search. And I will also say get some coaching on mock interviewing, resume writing, how to talk about the impact that you've had in previous years, and really speak to your leadership journey and what you bring to the table.
I love that concept. Where do I want to go and what can I give? One of my first coaching sessions as a career coach, she was a PhD and she had the list of organizations where she wanted to work, where she was looking for an opening. And she came to me as my goal is to expand my search. Like, what am I missing? And so I looked at that list. She didn't want to move out of Chicago. I said, where, what else? She had an extensive list, some of the best places to work at. And then it struck me, I said, what kind of roles are you applying for? So I only apply to roles where I meet every criteria in that. If everything is a check, I only apply for those.
Mm,
I said, okay, now
that's
we
the
need,
problem.
because there's no such thing as a perfect candidate.
It's not. When I look at job descriptions, I had a mentor that helped me with this because we are told we're groomed as children to sometimes think a certain way in the educational system, which is a whole other conversation. But to think I need to measure up to the entire job description, which is not true. There are things about this role that attracts you, skills that you have, and then there's areas where you can learn. So
Exactly.
how, if and when asked the question, what is it about this role that you enjoy? What about this role that scares you? Or how do you see yourself growing in this organization, in this role? Those bullet points where you like, this would be new for me. That's an opportunity to talk about. I am excited to learn how to do X, Y, and Z. and I'm really good at X, Y, and Z. So it shows the continuous learning of the person. And if the hiring manager is a person who loves to cultivate and mentor team members, they will see that as an opportunity to say, okay, I can coach this person in this. We can provide professional development trainings in that area.
Can go two ways. You can either you're overqualified. Within 6 months, you'll be bored of it and will be looking for another position. So it will be a wrong hire. It will be a wrong position to be in for me as well as for the company to again now go through that whole hiring process again. When you are looking at that vision, where do you see yourself? How far do you go out? 1 year, 5 years, 10 years? How far do you look ahead?
I'm in a space now where I am re envisioning because where I am now is the vision, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
So I'm in a space of building upon, okay, in the next 5 years, what does that look like? 10 years, 20 years, and then work my way backwards. And for me, that's something that I constantly assess and reevaluate and reflect upon.
So you go far ahead, like 10 years
Yes.
uh, ahead, that where do you see yourself in 10 years? And then work back, reverse engineer yourself to. And that's how you identify what skills you need to get to that vision and
Mm-hmm.
what kind of roles will help you build those skills.
Yes.
Everybody talks about vision, but not everybody is good with building an image in their head. I'm an imaginary person. It's like a live board in my head. But some clients who said that it's very hard for me to imagine. So, how can people refine that vision if it's a struggle for them to imagine that picture of what it
Yeah.
looks like?
First, I would encourage them to take off all the limitations. What I mean by that is, we know we got to pay bills. Take
Mhm.
off the I got to pay bills, or I need to feed my kids, or I need to do this, and just give yourself space to dream. I often ask this question when I'm podcasting: if you could tell your younger self something, what would it be? Like when you were younger, what did you love to do? And is there something that's still true for you to this day? And if it is, how can you build upon that passion and that desire? And what does that look like? So exploring those things, whether that's through writing, whether that's through asking your closest five friends a couple of questions. What do you see as my strengths? What do you notice that I really enjoy? What do I talk about the most? And like gathering data can help you to dream again too. So gathering data, reflecting on when I was a child, what did I dream about? How was I before all the responsibilities of life started to come upon me?
That's a very powerful question that I usually ask that in my coaching. What is it that you would be doing if money was not a constraint? Like,
Mhm. Because maybe there are ways to get into different industries that may bring more out of you by volunteering or creating something on the side, right? Maybe your 9 to 5 is not helping you to fulfill as many parts of yourself as you desire. And that's okay for right now, right? But you can create a plan of, okay, is there somewhere I can volunteer or something I can do in my spare time that really helps me to feel alive while I am on this journey of discovering where I want to land next.
I like that, to put a plan in place. That what does it look like? Volunteering is a great way to learn skills and get connected to people in that space, in that
Mm.
field, and have those informational interviews where you can learn how others have achieved that path. Now, as a leader, you've reached a certain level in your career. How do you keep growing, other than of course what your job is providing you, the skills that you're learning, the new challenges that you're facing? But as a leader, when you're self reflecting? What are some things you do to improve yourself as a leader and learn and keep growing?
I continuously surround myself with other leaders. And when I look back, that's been a trend of mine. So surrounding myself with leaders, but also I'm a big reader. So I read a lot and I listen to different leaders that I follow on YouTube. So it helps to feed the idea space. It helps to feed the leadership space. It helps to feed even my soul space, right? Like holistically, how am I feeding myself? What am I pouring into myself? And what type of conversations am I having that challenges my thoughts? That's how I continue to grow and look for opportunities to be a part of different cohorts. Like I recently finished Willie's Warriors, which is a Black women leadership development program through the Chicago Foundation for Women. So looking for opportunities to continue to connect and to grow is my leadership development plan.
Yeah, on a personal level, how
Yeah.
you we all grow through our work, but
Oh, you said personally. But for me, that's twofold actually. Reading is a big piece for me, both personally and professionally.
mm,
And also staying true to what I need is how I grow. So making sure that I give myself space to reflect is really key for me in my personal and professional leadership journey, and how I am wired and move is having that space to be. It helps to stay, it helps not to remain on the, what I call the rat wheel of
mm,
getting things done and really pacing.
I know that do a lot of work in equality, equity. How do you see that shifting from your childhood to now? What shifts have you seen in that?
I would say from my childhood to now, there are more spaces where conversations are happening due
Mm.
to the World Wide Web, social media. Feels like everyone is sharing their voice. That's how I've seen it shift from childhood to now. Is if there's an injustice that's happening in the city, around the country, people know about it instantly. There's a video that's being shared, there's a post being made. So I would say technology has definitely shifted the conversation.
That's so true. And it's not just in the US, worldwide, it's
Hmm.
in every sector. What more needs to be done
That's
creating
such
that?
a huge question. There are laws that have been repealed. So, in some sense, we're going backwards.
Hmm?
And some of the things, affirmative action, right? Women's rights to be able to carry a child or not, right? Taking a step back. We'll start there. Work still needs to be done in the area of all people being seen as people, not just certain people. Black and brown people being humanized as people and treated with dignity and respect. Still work to be done in that area.
I really love your introduction on LinkedIn. Um, One of your goals in life is to have those conversations and to work towards that, but at the same time, being compassionate and respectful to all stakeholders. And it can have such a huge impact on how we have conversations to really make a difference. If you're working towards a certain change, we need to learn how to express ourselves and say it in ways that are not disrespectful or demeaning.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
How do you look back at it all?
How do I look back at it? Having conversations like this helps me to reflect and look back and remember moments in time that felt hard, and to see now we can do hard things. And that means that I can continue to do hard things. That situations that I don't know of yet, I will be able to survive those because of what I've already survived.
Nice. Would you have done anything differently?
Would I? No,
No?
no. I look at each stop as a lesson learned. And so now, for me, with those lessons learned, I know not to stay in places too long. I know how to pivot quicker and not to compromise who I am for any situation or circumstance, but to live in the authenticity of who I am and what I bring into spaces.
So nice. It's so profound. Any thoughts on what's next for you?
Not yet. Stay tuned.
Okay.
I'm in my reflective season, so I'm thinking.
Okay. All right. Last question. What would you say to somebody who's dreaming but is still not afraid to take that first step towards that in
Mm.
that space?
I would ask them to close their eyes and see what life is like on the other side of their fear. And after they have that image, take the first step towards that.
No matter how small it is.
Correct.
Big one. It is so powerful to have that image and just to get connected with that emotion. Start believing as if you already have it.
Correct.
And getting connected to that emotion is the key. If you can start living out, I think, from that space, it can really motivate us to take that first initial step, no matter how small it is. And then, of course, one step at a time.
Definitely.
Well, Bianca, thank you so much for your time. I'm so grateful. And this is such a wonderful podcast, I think, full of wisdom. It was a learning experience. I'll be tuning in and looking out to what's next for you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Rena.
Of course.
If you found the content valuable, please like, share, and subscribe and spread the word. I feel the best compliment is being referred. That one action of yours can help us reach more people and fulfill the mission of thriving changes. Thank you for considering.